Now, banks are failing in the United States. In India, of course, we're talking about another airline that has failed. So Go First Airlines has filed for bankruptcy. It has blamed that decision on Pratt & Whitney, the company, and they've accused Pratt & Whitney of not supplying enough leased engines for their aircraft. The airline says it could have become fully operational by September this year had they received these engines. The Aviation Minister, Mr. Scindia, he said that the development is unfortunate, but let's put this in perspective. The news, as it were, about Go First and how it's really crash landed into this scenario of a bankruptcy. Samir, do tell us about the problems that ail Go First and what has been reported so far by the airline.
Definitely not a good day for an airline which has an operation record of more than 17 years, and especially for the passengers who have been flying with Go First for such a long duration. So the Bhatia Group owned Go First airline is going through a trouble period. The Front Crunch airline has now announced that for 2 days the flight operations will be totally cancelled. For May 3rd and May 4th, there will be no flight operations from Go First side, and this is all because of the Pratt & Whitney Indian issue. As per the statement issued by the Go First airline, it mentions that they are being forced to go for a voluntary insolvency proceedings. The resolution has been written and they have knocked the doors of NCLT. Now, in addition to this, the DGCA has issued a show cause notice to the airline asking that what all arrangements has been done or likely what all steps the airline will be taking for the passengers or the airlines who have booked their tickets for these 2 dates for May 3rd and May 4th. So a detailed plan is likely to be submitted by Go First to DGCA that practically what all solutions could be there. Effectively, either they will be issued the refund or they can opt for a rescheduled flight. They can reschedule their traveling dates, but there has to be a written or there has to be a detailed plan that has to be submitted by Go First to the aviation regulator. In addition to this, the Aviation Ministry has also taken the cognizance of the entire episode and has issued the statement. Jyotiraditya Scindia has said that they are fully aware of the development. The Aviation Ministry has given full support to the airline to overcome and to make the flight operations quite a smoother one. But unfortunately, because of the Pratt & Whitney Indian issue, this could not be done. Now, the ball is in the court of Go First airline, that's how they are going to resolve the issues of the passengers. Secondly, if they have gone for the bankruptcy procedure, whether their plea will be admitted or not, and if yes, then how the proceedings will be taken forward. So definitely not a good sign for Go First, but yes, now the passengers are the main, the flyers, they have to suffer a lot, and now they are looking for a solution from the airline.
All right, so it is a developing story. And of course, as far as an airline goes, getting into trouble of this kind, even as we speak about the big potential of the Indian market, a growing market, it comes to travel, and travel is booming as far as the Indian skies are concerned. But then why do we have failures like the one that we are talking about on Go First? Let's put that in perspective. Joining us is Ajay Avtani. He's the founder of livefromalive.com and also Supreme Court lawyer H.P. Ranina is with us tonight. Great to have you with us, gentlemen. Ajay, what did we know about the troubles that were brewing at Go First before today's announcement? How difficult a flight plan, I should say, was this airline on, and for how long?
Hi, Vikram. Well, Go First has been undergoing some sort of operational troubles for a while. I think a lot of that has not been hidden. The fact that I think they had about 60 or 62 aircraft in their fleet, and half of them were basically grounded. I think, if you flew out of Delhi or if you flew out of Bangalore, you'd see a lot of these aircraft on the ground, sometimes without engines, but sometimes with engines and still not operating, purely because of the fact that the airline had basically supply chain issues with Pratt & Whitney. Pratt & Whitney was, unlike, for example, Indigo, which has a multiple retinue of engine suppliers for their A320 and A321 Neo aircraft, Go Air was exclusive with Pratt & Whitney. And if you remember 3-4 years back, Pratt & Whitney, when they introduced the geared turbofan technology, it wasn't a massive hit. It was new, it's groundbreaking, yes. It promised a good outcome for the airline economics, but it has not come without its own troubles. So yeah, a lot of these aircraft have been lying unflying. Now, unfortunately, the aviation business is a flywheel kind of a thing where I think last year between the winter schedule, which ended in March, and the summer schedule, which started in March,
Yes.
Go Air cut down 40% of its flights, scheduled operations itself, because they did not have these aircraft. And now, as we hear, the next move there has been that they've gone into voluntarily
Yes.
file for insolvency because they say that Pratt& Whitney is unable to keep their operations going.
Yes, indeed. And that's the kind of issue that they have hinted towards, the reason why they've reached this point. Mr. Ranina, the airline has filed for this bankruptcy under Section 10 of the IBC. The decision has been forced, like they're saying, by the action of Pratt & Whitney, which allegedly at least did not dispatch those 10 spare leased engines. How will the insolvency procedure play out in this case?
Well, the main reason for going for insolvency is to protect them from debtors, because a lot of creditors were obviously after the company, and I'm sure they've not paid some of these creditors, like the airport authorities. Maybe labor is a problem. So the whole object of going into IBC is to get some protection so that they can phase out the payment schedule. Of course, that they will have to appoint a resolution professional under the IBC code in course of time, but that will be done by the creditors. The creditors will therefore have to move in the matter if they want to protect some of their dues. So the whole IBC is to protect themselves from the creditors who are going to really come after them in the next few days. And the IBC and the NCLT will therefore lay down the procedure. So the IBC code is really meant to help them to tide over this crisis. The real issue is, of course, the passenger problems, the loss of reputation, the reputational hazard which the first air will now be facing. That is going to be a very major issue. And they will have to get back the confidence of the passengers, because unless they do that, nothing is going to happen. They say that if you get back the engines in the next 3 months, they'll be able to start the operation by September. But will the customers have faith in them? And will they be able to get back on track as far as that is concerned? So I think the loss of reputation for this airline is going to create a real substantial problem for them.
So, Ajay, like Mr. Ranina is saying, it's going to be an uphill task, because even if they manage to get the Pratt & Whitney engines, to get the airline back, you need to win back the trust, and that can be very fickle when you file for bankruptcy. In terms of what you've noticed with airlines here and abroad that have filed for bankruptcy in situations like this, how differently have things turned out if and when they're able to get their act together? Because like Mr. Ranina again pointing out, that this is to really safeguard themselves against creditors. But in terms of being able to fly back into the green, how difficult a task to see it?
So, Vikram, abroad, I think bankruptcy procedures are much more well-defined. And we've seen, in fact, all the three major US-based carriers, American, Delta, and United, which are, by the way, still in business, having at some point of time gone into bankruptcy proceedings and, Chapter 11, as it is called in the US, and kind of come out of it successfully. In fact, these are some of the biggest airlines around the globe. So from time to time, different airlines do different things, and they come out of it. Unfortunately, in India, the procedures look a little different, a little more complicated, or maybe a little not very well-rounded. Like we've seen in the Jet Airways case, things are still 4 years on. We are still kind of waiting for the possession of the airline to be given to the new eventual owner of the airline, and it's still nowhere in sight. So I hope that in this case, if the airline is admitted into bankruptcy proceedings, there is a much better and a more linear, way of doing.
Yeah, but what are the
Unlike
lessons, Mr. Ranina, like we are hearing as far as Ajay Awdani's take is concerned from Jet Airways and that entire experience, because our IBC is still fairly nascent in dealing with a bankrupt airline. What lessons do you think we've learned from the Jet Airways experience? Because clearly that airline hasn't made it to the air again, and the entire situation as far as the bankruptcy proceedings are concerned, that's still in limbo. We don't have clarity on that either. So how will it be any different this time around with Go First?
I don't think it will be different. It may be even worse because the way the NCLT is bogged down with applications and the delay which is being caused as a result of that, it's very difficult for NCLT proceeding to really come to a fruitful decision. This is the unfortunate thing. They're supposed to give a final order within a stipulated period of time, but the NCLT just is not able to cope up with the issues involved with all the pending cases. So if Jet Airways is not there for the last 4 years, I think this matter will go on for perhaps for 7 years, and there won't be any resolution at all. So the only solution, as I see it, is for the promoters to pump in money to revive the airline, to make sure that they can pay off the creditors, at least the operating creditors, in the shortest possible time, and then get on stream, win back the confidence of the passengers, and then take flight again. And as far as P&W is concerned, I think they need to be, they will have to compensate first Go Air for what they have done, because the loss of business which the airline has suffered has to be compensated. As you know, they have gone back on the arbitrators award, and if we're not able to comply with the arbitrators award, then certainly the airline is entitled to compensation from P&W.
Well, we'll have to see exactly how the promoters act on this now that they've filed for bankruptcy. What do you think, Ajay? Do you think that there could be infusion from the promoters' side? Is that likely as far as the situation with Pratt & Whitney is concerned? Do you think some kind of positive resolution could happen as well? What are the chances? Because this is obviously going to change the landscape, the competitive landscape in Indian skies, while Go First goes into bankruptcy, doesn't it?
So I think, the promoters have raised their hands now. They've said, we've done enough of infusion of funds in the airline. In case, I'm sure you read the same statement that Go First issued as was on my desk as well, which is where they've said that they've had to pay for engines which they could not use. And that was a major cash flow burden on them. That's one part of the takeaway from what Goya's situation came out to be. But yeah, in case of how for Pratt and Whitney, I think an airline executive from the industry who shall remain unnamed always used to say, it's always about how you draft your contracts. So these GTF engines are causing trouble across the world, various airlines, including another Indian one as well. But I guess, the protection that Goya did not seek for themselves at the time of writing down the contract for the engines was loosely worded, and which is what is coming to kind of bite them right now, compared to some of the other guys who did more tighter work with the legals, and I guess hence are protected to a much bigger extent in this case.
The current scenario in the aviation market, surely it has been difficult. The pandemic hit them hard, and it's not like they've recovered completely, though people are back traveling with a vengeance. But there are competitive pressures, and those aren't going away. But with airlines now receding in terms of numbers as far as Indian skies are concerned, how tricky is that situation? Because just earlier this evening, I was talking about the fall of another bank in the US. Whether or not this really has a bearing on how the Fed reacts by way of interest rates, etc., is a secondary question. But an expert joining us about the banking crisis, as it were, he's saying, look, these smaller banks these regional banks shouldn't really go away. Similarly, I'm wondering, when you're looking at some of these airlines cutting down on the number of airlines that are in the Indian skies right now, surely this has a bearing on how the entire pricing is done, exactly how much choice that flyers have, it changes a lot of things, doesn't it?
No, I
Ajay.
totally agree with you, Vikram. I think there is a certain amount of, work that needs to be done in making sure that Go First is still in business, and for that matter, more airlines come back from the dead. For example, the Jet Airways case. But here's the thing: if this does not happen, as you and me both know, the airline business is sort of going to become a duopoly in India. There will be Indigo on one side, and there will be Air India and its associated entities on the other. And between these two, they corner, I think, 55 and maybe about 25-30% of market share. And then you're hardly left with anyone else unless Akasa grows, which is, we don't know about the financials of Akasa right now, but SpiceJet is in not great shape. So Akasa is the only hope left if Go First does not come back from the dead. So yeah, we should encourage aviation. Aviation is the signs of a economy that is developing and an upwardly mobile economy, and we definitely should have more airlines rather than less, I would say.
That's right. Mr. Ranina, do you have a take on what the government should be doing in this kind of scenario?
I don't think the government will do anything. They've burned their fingers with Air India. And I think they will just leave Go First alone and ask them to sort out the matter. I don't expect any help from the government at all.
Keep monitoring the situation as it develops, but it is unfortunate, like the aviation minister has said, that this airline has filed for bankruptcy, and we'll keep tracking that story as it develops. Ajay Avtani and HP Ranina, many thanks for joining us with your take on what is currently the situation in aviation in the Indian context. Then